שם למעלה, אל תעזבנו הלאה. כעת שעזבת את העולם כאן למטה, אתה היכן שרצית. עכשיו שהגעת לעולם שם למעלה, אל תעזבנו הלאה. כעת שעזבת את העולם כאן למטה, אתה...
Welcome everybody. Today we have an articulation, a conversation that has spanned several months between artist and rabbi. We brought the world together from all the way from California to Jerusalem. The worlds have collided in artistic measures and in Torah. We have a special presentation here with Olesya, an artist, writer living in Los Angeles. She was born in Russia, where she started doodling and also writing angels, publishing her tales in puppet plays. She moved to the US in 1992, studied animation at UCLA, then worked doing web animation and illustration. We have Reb Leibish, who is a teacher at Yeshivat Simchat Shlomo, inspired by the wisdom and the songs of Shlomo Carlebach and the Chassidut of teaching students how to experience God and high elevation with a sense of profound beauty in the world. I would like first Olga to come forth to the stage and share with us the work and experience that you've had these last few months.
Okay, I must say, when I first received this theme, I was very frightened. Animal sacrifices, rough cruelty. I thought this is something which meaning I would never grasp. And so I thought, actually, maybe that's my chance to get a better understanding. And I started doing some reading, but actually the turning point was the conversation with the Rabbi Leibish, and especially one moment when I asked him, what would the man who comes to the temple, what would he think? He's coming to kill this pure and innocent animal. And his answer was, this purity and innocence is an unknown part of himself, the part which connects him to the whole living world. And that was actually my breakthrough. I started thinking about different levels of existence, some levels where we're not that separated, and some levels where we might even go beyond life and death. So I went to do my first painting. I went to walk around the trees. I will tell you a couple of words about how I do my paintings. Usually I just think and meditate on the subject, and then I go walking around the trees, and I try not to think, but to see what the trees will show me about the subject and what I would read in the bark, in this hieroglyphic language of the bark's twists and turns. And then I would copy it and try to decode it. And sometimes I'm puzzled by what I see, and the interpretation comes only later as a flash out of a sudden, or maybe after I do some research. So that was the first painting, and here there is a burning tree. The tree is burning, and it is recollecting the archetypal legends related to the fire, like the fire on the altar at the ancient temple. And there is a simple ancient man in front who came to the temple to get more awareness, to understand what's beyond dying, to get closer to the eternal fire. Um, Fire that is the symbol of the life, eternal life, because the animals which are being sacrificed, they support us, they transform us, the living ones. So, and after I have done this painting, I actually did two more just for fun because I could not stop. I was already so involved with this theme. And those other two paintings, uh, they I made the bark look a little bit like blood, like bleeding cells, some animal flesh. I exaggerated this redness, though I was looking at the burned trees, but I wanted to exaggerate this redness. And the symbolism was, of course, of the constant fire on the altar, which symbolizes the inner fire in our heart. So it was very gratifying process because it took me right to my subconscious very deeply.
Would you like me to show the third piece as well?
Yes, all right. Yes. And here, actually, that was an example when I didn't know exactly what was that, but I suddenly felt that the two figures in the middle, they might be Moshe and Aaron. And that's when the moment when the Aaron gives, when the Moshe gives the Aaron the right to do the sacrifices and explains him how to do it. But there was something that Moshe kind of holding in his hands, some vessel filled with uh, glistening oil or something. And I felt it had to be there, didn't know exactly what was that. And I asked Rabbi Leibish, what could it be? And he said, well, of course, it is a flask, it's something that he will be anointing. The, he will be anointing Aaron right this moment with out of this flask and put it all this oil on his head. So that was really fun. And I thought also there might be this circle in his hands of spirit might be Tiferet, and this all might be kind of a scheme of the tree of life. with the Sephirot showing kind of a little bit uh, on the sides and more in the central column. So that it signifies the different levels of this fire. The Malkut, what we see, the sacrifices below, and then it goes higher and higher. So that was the meaning. So yes, thank you, Kim.
Of course, of course. And the pink hue that you have is is it from like a painting of the blood? Is it of organic life, or is it also there's something that makes it very ethereal and beyond biology?
Do you are you talking about the color?
Yeah.
Yes, I thought it might be somehow symbolizing the blood, but it's all on different levels. Just the light on another level.
Mm.
Because I do many levels when I paint. And then uh, and it matches the structure of the tree actually, because the tree has many levels.
Mm. And can you also describe a little bit also about the canvas that you used? It's from a tree.
Yes, I paint on wood and I do many levels. Actually, most often I use the technique of the old Flemish masters. Uh, do the red, cover everything with red, then white, and then different levels. So one level kind of light from another being seen, half transparent.
Um, that
So that it will be closer to the structure of the park. And
this
the idea is you can look more and more and notice more pieces, figures, like you can do with the bark of the tree.
in this picture compared to the other ones, there's less of a pronouncement of which of the faces are like from an animal and from a human, where in the other two, you have kind of a distinction between the humans and the animals peering in on the periphery.
Yes, maybe, but also it might be different levels because you can see the goat below and you can see the fire. And I wanted to emphasize the different levels of this fire. It coming from one sphere to another and up together.
Mm. Can you map out again just where different aspects of the Sefirot are?
Well, the Malkut is what where we are more connected to the earth, and it's something that we observe. This is the sacrifice that is happening in the temple, and then slightly seen is Yesod. Well, it's erotic, but kind of a sphere of the eros, but also its imagination. And then it goes to Tiferet, which is the heart, and it's the central point where Moshe gives the Aaron that right to do the sacrifices. So still all built around it. And at the very top there is Keter. I'm talking just about the central column of the tree. It's a Keter, some spiritual creature is holding it, and I actually saw it exactly like that in the tree, so I was surprised.
We're coming into a period of Purim, and it feels like the ambiguity of character and the outer body of these figures, they're not shaped humanly necessarily.
Yes, exactly, and that's the point. They more like hieroglyphs. They a little bit drawings, a little bit. They might be signs or letters. Sometimes they're more understandable, but sometimes they just like a language of the tree.
And these characters are the center, the malchut, and how you have it is also like the kingship is like spiraling outward, where we have this central concentric circle at the core, which on wood has the rings of like life and of its years spiraling outwards. You have the different sphirot emanating from inside to out, which is not the typical way that like sphirot are usually seen as like a tree of ascending hierarchy. But the camp that the Mishkan was at the core, was at the center, and you have these circles spiraling out of interaction further and further until you leave all the way outside of the camp.
I love this. Yes, because I love those different maps or diagrams of the Sephirot when that's one circle is around another one. Maybe I thought about it. And I like that it looks like.
So coming to the other side of your experience of where you came with a question and you used your art to express the tension of the gruesome, the innocence of life that was lost through the animal sacrifices. Through these depictions and through like your undying energy of creativity, of starting with one image and exploring the idea in not two and three images, and just it keeps overflowing with different ideas and imageries. How do you feel now in your own trying to parse the language and the experience of what was a very bloody experience that's part of our collective history?
I feel that personally, I really came to the core of this parsha, though maybe I don't even have words for it, but I felt it really intensely. I felt it so intensely, and it changed me. It changed not only the understanding of this parsha, but just many things that I relate to. Because I really felt this connection to the center, to the eternal fire of life. Somehow it sparkled on me for a moment.
Yeah, there's a distinction between the relationship with us and sacrifice, from last week's study with Toby Khan, and also the parsha itself. It's called Parshat Vayikra, where Moses is called to the center, and he's brought into the conversation through a sense of opening up his ears and searching for God, and using that search to enter the sacred space of the temple. And Ramban talks about how the small letter of the Aleph in Vayikra makes it so that it's almost diminished to a sense of that it could be read as Vayikar. That there was a mikra, that there was randomness. It just happened upon an experience of finding God in the melodrum and in the confusion of life. You come to these interactions that trip you up and that allow you to see God even in things that seem mundane or that seem random. But this week's parsha goes to a different level of intentionality with our relationship with God. It's called Tzav, that it isn't random. There's a commandment, there's a procedure, there's a morning sacrifice and an afternoon sacrifice and an evening sacrifice, that we come to God quite on a regimen. And that experience is a very different way of interacting. I see in my experience of looking at your piece is that you kind of have faces looking in random places, and that they're all kind of present, but just thrown into the image. But at the same time, each of your three pieces come at like this center, this gravity that forces the eye inward, that forces us towards what isn't random and what isn't happenstance.
Yes. Yes, thank you. I very often I paint these faces that I actually see them in the bark, and they feel like inspirational for me. But people tell me, why are they scary? Why are they looking at us? But somehow I feel all these spirits, creatures. They're not scary for me. I feel their existence. I feel they're sympathizing with us, and they just want to tell, don't worry,
Mm.
don't worry. We don't understand all this exactly same like you. We are in the same position,
Mm. Mm.
but at the same time, there is a feeling of connection through all these faces. They all create the oneness.
The
They're all part of it.
yeah, and they all kind of feel ungrounded a little bit too. That it's almost like you're depicting not just the the bodies, but the souls of each of these individuals and these figures.
Yes. Mhm. Oh, thank
You come from a background that that's with play and puppetry, and we can look at one of your other images as well. Do you feel connected to that idea of this being in step with kind of the garish figures that you depict in your education from UCLA?
you. Well, I don't know. Puppetry all somehow becomes very important thing for me somehow because maybe it's part of my seeing the world, seeing these invisible strings, and seeing that one thing operates another one, not just like we all operated by something, but it's a gradual operating and connection again by these strings that we don't see, but this large theater that we participate in participating in some scripts without knowing it. Yeah, maybe my background in theater shows up somehow in this and involvement with puppets. But I was involved with puppets for a reason because I felt I felt for them from my childhood. It was kind of an image of the world.
You'd also described this continuous connection. The name of your pieces are Temple Tree, and a real fascination around this depicting human life, animal life, but also connecting it with botanist life in trees. Can you describe and explain that?
Explain the connection with the trees.
The
I
connection,
didn't
and
hear
also your entry point into being curious about it.
about the connection to the trees.
Yeah.
Well, trees, they are considered like the archetypes of people. So I feel that they are like us a lot, though probably know more, and they're like teachers, they are like elders. And I always come to trees just to get some lesson, to ask question, to get some encouragement. And I always get it. I get it from the trees, enormous support.
Yeah.
During isolation time, actually, I was talking to the trees a lot. It was a lot of communication.
There's a regality to the way they tower over us, hundreds of feet high above, and that the fixture of them also relate to temple imagery. Um, the temple is associated with the cedar trees of Lebanon, and the cedar trees of Lebanon are very burly, strong figures, like wide. You need multiple people to wrap your arms around in order to get to the girth that they present. But in lockstep, kind of seeing nature as not being something that we have dominion over, but something that impresses a sense of awe onto us, that can be seen in the trees. I think emphasizes your point to humble ourselves, and that there's a connection and a relationship with these sacrifices is not being something of showing our domination over animal life, but coupling our lives with their lives and seeing that it could be the animal, that could be us, and our sins are entwined with the fates of the rest of nature.
Yeah, that's very beautiful.
Also, if people want to come in and participate, these are very powerful pieces, and I hope they can incite questions in each of you. We're experiencing just a little technical difficulty, but Leibish is trying to log on. But if people have questions and bring forth your own insights into what you see. Oh, yes. Pira has a question.
Hi, thank you so much for this beautiful, beautiful piece. Wait, okay, I'm just curious about the relationship that led to the creation of this piece. How did your relationship, where do you find it? Where do you see the learning, the Torah learning through the piece in the dyadic process of the Chavruta?
Well, in this piece, you see in the center, you see kind of vaguely, you see the temple and you see the altar with a fire. So it is the central point of the image, right? And then there are priests, you see maybe all this kind, these creatures, these figures, they symbolize probably the priests in some different fantastic way, with the animals on the heads, and you see the animal world all around, maybe more fantastic, that animal world that exists probably in imagination on different levels, just like the principle of the being alive, animality. And then you see just one figure who is not a priest, in front. Uh, this is, in my view, it was just a guy who came to the temple to learn, to see see what's happening, to be more aware about the other levels of life, to be closer to the eternal fire on the altar.
That's such a beautiful, that I hadn't taken note, but your continual emphasis of the eternal fire is a prominent conversation in this week's parsha of the Ner Tamid, eternal flame. And there's an interesting connection and question about that, like in conversation with the eternal, with the structured, with the commanded conversation of what sacrifices are, is surrounded by the Vayikar. And then in next week's parsha, we have the foreign fire that consumes Nadav and Avihu in such a shocking moment. And that becomes a very troubling interaction and connection with the parsha of that foreign flame, and the flame that comes out of, the rabbis have difficulty understanding it, but something of zealotry, or of being over engaged in the duty, and how like you can kind of swing too far in one direction and swing too far in the other. Oh yes, Richard.
Yes, I read that question. There was a question, how did it change my art, the study of this parsha? But I feel it didn't change it, more like it confirmed my approach to what I was doing, because I was searching for this connection, to inner connection to different layers of life, to see more define the surface. And this parsha, actually, study of the parsha, it was about it. It was about different levels of life, of the living, all communicating and participating in the process.
Richard, yes.
Hi. Good morning, Olga. Thank you so much. Just some very banal questions. First of all, how large are these pieces? There's two pieces. One, you say they're on wood, but how large are they? And secondly, the image we're seeing right now, is that the complete image of the piece? Because one part of it seems to be cut off on the bottom. And I was curious, are these the complete images or simply a smaller version of the paintings themselves?
Somehow I lose this here. I can't hear. Are these images?
Okay, the first question is, how large are these paintings? How large?
The paintings. This one is 18 by 24 inches, and two others are 16 by 20 inches.
I see. Okay. And the image we're seeing now, is this the complete painting, the complete image?
It might be complete. Maybe I will add something. Not sure yet.
I see, but it's not
see that I
cropped.
will add something. I actually wanted to add more glazes on it, so that there will be more transparency.
My question was whether the painting was cropped, and the bottom especially.
Is it in completion currently, or is there anything below?
Is there anything below? I wanted to leave it like that because this guy who's in front, he's actually part of the tree. He is trying to come out, but he is also the message from the tree. Is inside that message.
We have the great honor of having before us Reb Leibish from the Holy Land, from Jerusalem. He's been on tour sharing his music to America, and also bringing beauty and light to the students at Yeshivat Simchat Shlomo. And I don't want to take any more time, but I also want to bring up here to the conversation the deep insights and the wisdom from Reb Leibish. Welcome.
Hi, Shalom Aleichem. Sorry for my face taking up the whole screen. I'm in a place I wasn't planning to be, and I can't hear so well, so I need to be really close to hear you. And I'll ask you if you want to address me any questions to speak as loud as you can and close to the microphone. My computer is I'm in a restaurant where there's some music. Thank God I was able to pick up the Wi-Fi. In any case, I'm sorry about my miscalculation of the daylight savings time. Glad to be here.
Can you describe a little bit about your experience studying with Olga, and also your experience of the insights that you gleaned from the studies, from the art?
It was amazing to hear Olga's questions about animal sacrifice, and with a real curiosity, and she created a great space, even over the phone, for me to feel very free to answer her as fully as possible. It was a very she's a very good listener, and I appreciated that very much, first of all. And it felt like a very fruitful conversation. And then when I was able to see her in LA, which was very, very wonderful, and see the actual physical paintings, that was also a very powerful experience for me, particularly the way that she uses the tree bark. I found that to be, on the one hand, kind of integrating a certain feeling of like ancient wisdom and koach hatzomeach, like the growth energy of the world, into the painting. And also what was fascinating to me who was many things, but that I'll just mention now was some things that I noticed in her paintings. For instance, in one of them, it looks like Abraham holding Yitzchak as a small child. She hadn't intended that at all. It wasn't even supposed to be a child in his hands. And that just fascinated me, how art, in the interaction with the media, involves, I guess it's true of any painting to some small degree, but depending how much, but there's a certain randomness or a certain unintentional quality that comes in, and that relates also to trying to tap into the tree bark's kind of message, but also to, on the one hand, you could call it random, on the other hand, you could call it, in our case, particularly channeling a shared energy of a conversation and a learning. And things might not be intentional, but if I see them, then maybe in some way they were there in some kind of a shared, space that is informing the art. One last thing was that we were talking a couple of instances, the leaf in the first painting and the glowing orbs in the third painting, and she was asking what I thought in terms of how she could add to the painting. That to me was a very it was a unique experience to be able to inform in a conscious way the direction of a painting. And so those are the experiences that are most noteworthy to me. In terms of the actual study and the learning and how this affected me, as I wrote about in the Dvar Torah, like there was one element of what I brought in at the beginning about the innocence of the animal and identifying with that innocence and the death of that innocence, and an idea of like you wrote in Tzav in the invitation to the articulation, that there's a peeling away of layers and a kind of a sense of like I was writing that death can be absurd and final, whereas an animal sacrifice can be meaningful and a beginning, and a kind of elevating of energy. I also, as I came on, I noticed someone mentioning about the eyes. That was also very noteworthy to me. When I first looked at the first painting, the solemnity and the awe that was in the eyes.
Sorry to interrupt, but trying to make me hop over and out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I just now have to move the tables. So I'll pause for a minute if anybody wants to respond. Okay, great.
Yes. Leibish,
Okay.
Leibish, I'm curious about you described this as like a very unique form of chavruta and study, and what your
Dvir, is there some way to speak closer to the microphone somehow? I'm not hearing you so clearly.
Sorry. You described this unique form of study as something that presented an interesting type of
maybe I
interaction.
need you to type it. I'm so sorry. I'm just not. I'm not. Maybe if I sit outdoors.
Sure, sure. I'll type it. Exactly. Great.
Painting Torah changed my understanding. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. That a chavruta, in some way, there's a place in the Talmud where they say about the mitzvah of the invitation for the grace after the meals, zimun, that you need 3 people, and there's an opinion there that you can have 2 people, and the Torah in between them counts as the 3rd. It's an amazing opinion, and that's a dynamic that's there in chavruta, and here the painting in a way it like kind of embodies to a certain extent that 3rd element, and I think also the writing that I did, having seen the painting, also brings some of that to life. And then there's always some level that is in this connection to Olga that is not verbalized.
In the unverbalized and in the randomness, can you correlate and feel the conversation giving us some chizuk, some limud on Purim Torah that's coming up in the next few days?
Oh, excellent connection. I think that the message of Haman was that the randomness erases your specialness and your importance. And the concept with art and exploration and Torah study is that the randomness is filled with love and filled with acknowledgement of the specialness of 2 people interacting, and every interaction with the world, with the tree, with the canvas, with the paper, with the computer, with God, that that to me is a big part of the drunkenness of Purim. It's not a loss. It's not a loss of meaning in a negative sense. It's a in the same way that the sages say that love that doesn't depend on any particular thing that can be articulated. Ahava she'eina tluya b'davar has a kiyum. It has an existence, meaning it has an eternality to it. So any love shehi tluya b'davar, that you could translate that as meaning any love that can be reduced to words does not have that kind of eternality to it. So Purim is a holiday of Netzach and great eternal kind of connectivity.
So beautiful, so beautiful. It's so incredible. Like, despite that technology provides us this ability to hear the world from all the way from the West Coast and
Right.
from Mizrach. I feel like me in the middle in New York, I'm getting a hug from both sides. Can you also speak a little bit about the yeshiva and your message of bringing music and wisdom in that world, in that realm of the inchoate?
Yeah, well, right. So that to me, that realm of the inchoate is the realm of being, of just being, and to a certain extent, even in the Torah world, maybe to an overwhelmingly large extent, things do get put too much into words and too quantified and too kind of result oriented. And we have a big dream to create a new space in Yerushalayim. It would be called Your Soul Studio. That's taking the acronym Yeshiva Simchat Shlomo YSS, Your Soul Studio, to create a kind of a. This is something maybe actually we should really talk about, even working together possibly in some way within this space. That I love the idea of a studio. It just makes me happy as an explorational place, a holy curiosity, and the idea would be to involve all different kinds of experiential things like art and art workshops and music workshops, meditation, comedy, drama, and different things that relate to the being that comes before study, and that when it is really given the space to explore and be welcomed, the study, to my opinion, is then, exponentially greater, because it's not just about intellectually working with a text. It's a full being that is working with the energy of the Torah, and I've seen this, and I really believe in it. So this is a big dream. We haven't done it yet, but we've been promoting in monthly events, singer-songwriters and artisans of different kinds that get their tables, and we give stage time, and we do some learning, and but it would be amazing to have. We're dreaming of creating like a storefront kind of Beit Midrash / lounge kind of a space, and I think that this experience only sharpens and intensifies my desire for this to exist. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you, Olesya. Thank you, Reb Leibish, for creating this, for carving out this space, and for working on this piece together. The collaborative connection of it was so evident from the process that it was impossible that Hashem wouldn't make it so that you could both meet in person and see the image of your eyes. It's a beautiful thing, and I want everyone to carry this into this coming week, this message of finding something that isn't random, finding the specialness through wading through all that seems random in our own lives. Thank you, everyone, for attending this articulation. And I'm just so happy that we were able to present this beautiful piece and bring it to the world.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
I'm very, very honored to participate.
Yeah.
Thank you, Olga. Thank you, Dvir. Thank you, everyone.